The skateboard ramp, and it was a skateboard party. So, I'm happy I get to clear that up because I was not the spoiled brat. Because first of all, if I was spoiled brat, my mama would have whooped my ass, okay? What's the best way to make me mad?
Best way to piss you off?
Mm-hmm. You got a few of those.
Get into it with you.
I really don't care what happens to her at all. I don't care. Like, everybody they tiptoe around with this social media, but what y'all don't get is that it be real consequence for y'all little flexes, y'all quick flexes for $300 that you need. It be consequence.
The courtroom was so quiet that you could hear the faint scratch of a pen against a wooden bench. The kind of silence that presses down on everyone, making each movement feel amplified. But then, from nowhere, that silence was shattered. Iman's voice cut through the room, raw, trembling, echoing off the walls as he shouted, "That ain't my baby." The words didn't just linger in the air, they tore through it like glass breaking, scattering shock across every face present. Even the judge, a person accustomed to chaos and courtroom drama, leaned forward in disbelief, her gavel momentarily forgotten in her hands. Nobody had expected things to reach this point. Nobody imagined Iman would speak aloud the accusation that had been simmering behind clenched teeth and cold stares. In that instant, there was no turning back. What should have been a standard custody hearing had transformed into a battlefield. Normally, these proceedings followed a predictable rhythm. Lawyers spoke, statements were read, agreements and disagreements were carefully weighed, and the people involved mostly remained silent, their emotions restrained beneath legal facades. But the moment that ultrasound image was revealed, everything changed. Weeks of tension between Tayana Taylor and Iman Shumpert, simmering silently, finally erupted in a way no one could ignore. The courtroom became a stage for raw emotion, and the world outside would soon bear witness. Outside the courthouse, the morning had already hinted at something heavy in the air. Fans, paparazzi, and reporters clustered along the steps, phones poised, lenses ready, waiting to catch even the smallest gesture. To them, this was more than a legal proceeding. It was a real-life soap opera unfolding in real time. Some hoped for reconciliation, perhaps a quiet resolution. Others, craving drama, waited for chaos. They wouldn't have to wait long. Inside, the atmosphere was thick. Each breath carried tension, each movement weighed with anticipation. Tayana arrived first, escorted by her legal team. She looked immaculate, but the tension beneath her composure was impossible to ignore. Her face was pale, her eyes rimmed with sleepless nights and unspoken fears. She didn't smile, didn't wave. She walked with a careful, deliberate grace, each step heavier than the last, as if the weight of what was to come rested on her shoulders. Moments later, Iman entered. His face was rigid, jaw clenched, eyes burning with a storm that promised destruction. This wasn't just anger. It was a seething, consuming fire, one that threatened to consume everything in its path. The lawyers began their opening statements, and for a brief moment, it seemed as though the day would follow its expected course. Discussions about custody schedules, financial support, and disagreements over parenting. But Tayana's lawyer had other plans. A sealed envelope was placed carefully in front of the judge, a silent promise of upheaval. Everyone's eyes followed it, drawn as if it were a ticking bomb. The judge unsealed the envelope, placing its contents into view. An ultrasound image. Grainy, black and white, and impossibly small, yet capable of carrying unimaginable weight. Normally, such a photo would bring joy, a smile, perhaps tears of happiness. Here, it ignited a storm. Iman's eyes fixed on the image. At first, he seemed frozen, trying to process what he was seeing, disbelief clouding every muscle of his face. Then, imperceptibly at first, that disbelief began to surface. Brows furrowed, lips pressed into a tight line, color draining from his face as the truth or what he thought was truth hit him. He leaned forward, stiff as a board, and after a few heart-stopping seconds, he snapped. His voice shattered the courtroom, raw and unfiltered. "That ain't my baby." Gasps erupted, mouths covered in shock, eyes widened in disbelief. The judge slammed the gavel, trying to restore order, but it was futile. The damage had been done. Reporters scribbled furiously, phones buzzed with incoming updates, whispers turned into loud murmurs. Everyone wanted to know, had Iman truly accused Tayana of lying about the child's paternity? Tayana's composure crumbled. Tears streamed down her face as she struggled to respond. "How could you?" she whispered, voice breaking. She finally stood, pointing at Iman through the haze of her tears. "How dare you humiliate me like this? This is your baby." The courtroom seemed to split in two. Iman, fiery, furious, unwilling to accept reality. Tayana, broken yet defiant, desperately, holding on to whatever dignity she had left. In the middle sat the ultrasound, quiet and haunting, a ticking time bomb resting on the judge's desk. Then, whispers began circulating, names muttered under breath, carrying weight. Aaron Pierre. The name had been a shadow over the entire saga, a specter haunting every interaction. Some courtroom members exchanged knowing glances, others leaned in to catch the murmurs. Could this be Iman's accusation? Was Aaron at the center of the storm? Iman's expression hardened further. His voice trembled with rage as he pointed at Tayana. "Don't play with me. Don't stand here pretending the math adds up. We both know who you were with when we were apart. Don't lie to me in this courtroom." The judge called for order again, but her voice was lost in the rising tide of emotion. Tayana sobbed, insisting she had never betrayed Iman, pleading that this was merely another attempt to destroy her. Her lawyer tried to intervene, to calm her down, but the damage was already deep and visible. The pain in her voice was undeniable. "Even if we were broken," she said, trembling, "even if things weren't perfect, this baby is yours, Iman. Yours." But Iman was no longer listening. His chest heaved, fists clenched, his body tense, a visible display of barely contained fury. His lawyer placed a hand on his arm, urging him to sit, but he brushed it aside. This was no longer a matter of custody. It was betrayal, trust shattered, a life upended in front of everyone. Finally, the judge intervened, raising her voice above the din. "Enough," she shouted, gavel slamming. "This court will not descend into chaos. If there are questions about paternity, there is one solution. A DNA test will be conducted." The words struck like thunder. A DNA test and objective truth. That could end arguments, silence whispers, and finally reveal reality. Iman leaned back, shaking his head, smirking bitterly. "Fine," he muttered, eyes locked on Tayana. "Let's see the truth." Tayana broke down completely, clutching her stomach as sobs echoed louder than the gavel. Spectators were shaken by the rawness of her collapse. But Iman's anger lingered, echoing in everyone's mind. "That ain't my baby." By the time the court adjourned, the story had already leaked beyond the walls of the courthouse. Outside, cameras flashed like fireworks, reporters scrambled, and within minutes, headlines were plastered across every news platform. Courtroom explosion. Iman denies baby during custody battle. Iman Shumpert accuses Tayana Taylor of betrayal. Is Aaron Pierre the real father? Social media erupted. Clips of Iman shouting circulated rapidly, racking up millions of views in hours. Memes, debates, even conspiracy threads dominated online discourse. Fans were divided, some defending him, claiming no one would deny their child without reason. Others condemned him, accusing him of public humiliation at a time of vulnerability. Behind the scenes, the fallout was even more intense. Tayana left the courthouse surrounded by her team, trying to shield her from cameras, her pain undeniable, her silence speaking volumes. Iman stormed out separately, jaw tight, shoulders stiff, answering no questions. And Aaron Pierre? Nowhere in sight. Yet his name trended globally. Fans dissected every photo, interview, and blurry paparazzi shot, desperately trying to connect dots that may not even exist. Once suspicion takes hold, it spreads like wildfire. The heart of it all were to children, innocent victims caught in a storm not of their making. Family members, behind closed doors, were furious and terrified. What had started as a custody hearing had transformed into a public spectacle of pain, betrayal, and tension. The world was holding its breath, waiting for a single truth: the DNA test. This was more than science, it was a symbol of trust broken and questions long left unspoken, demanding answers. For Iman, this moment carried the weight of every doubt, buried deep inside, every sleepless night questioning origins and truth. For Tayana, it was her final chance for vindication, to silence accusations and restore her honor. But when the results came, what would happen? Would healing follow? Or Would pain deepen? Could it bridge the emotional chasm between them? Or would it carve a line that could never be crossed? This was about more than biology. It was identity, belonging, and what family truly meant. A day like this would change everything. The future of their family, the delicate bonds of trust, the lives of two innocent children all hung in the balance. The world was watching, waiting for the truth to finally emerge.